Welcome to Sermon Plus. I'm Pastor Mike. In today's show, we will be talking about responsible biblical interpretation. I promised at our service on Sunday, I promised that there were some concepts that I couldn't get into, but I would make at least 2 videos this week, and this is the first one. We talked about how a responsible supernatural worldview, and I need to make sure I add that word responsible. That's important. We just don't accept everything that people say about the supernatural world. We need to be discerning. We need to verify. We need to compare what we're hearing with the scriptures so that we can make sure that what we're affirming is true. That being said, there is a history of Bible interpretations that were made not necessarily to clarify what's in the text, but to defend a certain viewpoint. There are study Bibles and some resources out there that aren't interested in actually mining what's there. They want to defend their position or their group or their people. One such study Bible that I made reference to that was published in 1909, I didn't name the name because I didn't want to get into it, because this study Bible is very popular. And one of the reasons why it's so popular is because it's currently in the public domain. So you can cheaply produce this study Bible without having to pay royalties. You just pay the production costs. So you'll see this study Bible quite frequently free online and free, maybe not free, but fairly cheap in the bookstores compared to other study Bibles. It's called the Scofield Reference Bible. Now, this reference Bible, this study Bible, was unique in many ways when it first came out. First of all, it was one of the first, if not the first, study Bible that actually had these study notes on the same page with the biblical text. That, as far as I know, as far as what I've learned, was not something that was normal. In fact, many people bought this Bible, began to read it, and they saw the study notes on the same page of the Bible. They actually thought it was part of the Bible. This study Bible was written to advance a very particular way of reading the scriptures called dispensationalism. Now, I will say up front, I don't have time to get into what dispensationalism is. I'll just say that is not the view that I hold to, nor is it compatible with almost every major scholar. It's a view that has been pretty much debunked. Now, again, there may be some people that disagree, and feel free to disagree. It's just not a system that's compatible with what I believe a responsible view of the scriptures are. And here's one of the reasons why, is because there's an example in this study Bible, and I'm going to show you, where the study Bible actually takes a clear teaching from Jesus about how we are to treat those that are lesser, those that have need. And the reference notes completely discards that viewpoint, that teaching, and says, no, that's not for us now. That's for future believers during the Great Tribulation. And again, this study Bible has very strict rules about how the different dispensations work and rules work. And actually, when you go piece by piece through these viewpoints, they break down. They really do. But I want to show you an example. So here is that Matthew 25 passage we talked about. And we talked about Sunday, if you were at our service. Jesus, of course, Matthew 25, Jesus is talking about the last days, which, of course, we know the last days began in Acts chapter 2 on the day of Pentecost, where Peter quotes Joel chapter 2, in the last days I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. So we know the last days began on the day of Pentecost 2,000 years ago. Now, Jesus is giving some teaching, and then he says, in Matthew 25, beginning with verse 37, then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. Now, this has always been understood in Christian teaching as the ethics of how we're to treat strangers. Jesus was very clear in his teaching. We are not just to love our friends, we're not just to love our family, but we're also to love our enemies. And Jesus is saying, well, when you serve the least of these, you're serving me. And this is an ethical teaching that Christians should be following. However, in the Scofield Reference Bible notes, he says this: the test in this judgment is the treatment accorded by the nations to those whom Christ here calls my brethren. So first of all, the study Bible is saying, well, who are my brethren? Well, we know Jesus has already answered that question. Earlier in the book, he said, who are my sister and my brothers? And he says, those that are doing the will of the Father, those that are doing the will of God are my brother and sister. So Jesus has already explained who his brethren are. But for some reason, this reference Bible says, these brethren are the Jewish remnant who will have preached the gospel of the kingdom to the nations during the tribulation. Well, according to their scheme, the tribulation is a future date after what they teach is the rapture of the church. So, in other words, the study Bible is saying when Jesus says how you treat the least of these has nothing to do with this current era. They erase that teaching from this present age and puts it in a future place. And he says, well, this is how Christians are supposed to treat the Jews, or people are supposed to treat the Jews during the tribulation. You see what I'm saying? These are little details that are easy to pass over, but can you imagine the confusion that this causes if somebody reads this study Bible and says, oh, when Jesus says this is how we're supposed to treat the least of our brethren, this is how we're supposed to treat the least of people, that's not for us now. That's for a future tribulation. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We want to be careful about how we interpret the Bible because there are lots of free resources, online resources that have sketchy stuff in it like this. Now, again, if the Schofield Reference Bible is one of your favorites and things like that, listen, it's not my place. I'm not here to tell you get rid of it or don't read it. I'm saying let's be careful. Let's be responsible in our biblical interpretation. This is not a good, in fact, it's dead wrong. This teaching is not for just some future time. This is for now as much as any other teaching that Jesus had. But there has always been, it seems like a concentrated effort to try to take the clear teachings of Jesus and say, nope, that doesn't apply now. That doesn't apply to you. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't worry about it. And I think that really the best thing we can do, if it is true, like Romans 8:29 says, that we were predestined by the Father to be conformed into the image of his Son so that he would be the firstborn of many brothers and sisters. If we're supposed to be conformed to the image of Jesus, that means the clear teachings of Jesus must be part of our lives. And if we read a study Bible note or we read a Bible dictionary note, especially from maybe a free public domain source that's older, that might not have been written to actually mine the scriptures for what's there, but actually to defend a certain viewpoint, I would say exercise caution. If you run into something you have a question about, feel free to reach out to somebody. Reach out to your pastor. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do the best I can. I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but one of the things that I've always found very important is a careful, responsible reading of the text that takes a look at the context. What's the Bible saying? It's not my job to go to the Bible and tell the Bible what to say. What I want to do is to discover what the Bible's actually teaching and then share that with others. Well, that's all I have time for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Take care and God bless.